Hello, Internet. Adam Patrick Murray here from PC World. We got
Gordon.
Gordon. What's going on, man?
Oh, it's Friday.
It's Friday.
Can I say that? So we don't want to. Actually, it could be Monday or Tuesday. We're lying.
Who knows?
It's pre-recorded.
Yeah, it is. We're here to talk about this guy, the Ryzen APU build that we did a couple weeks ago. And kind of go over, how we think it went, what we would change, if there's anything we would change,
sure.
And performance. After we kind of did some gameplay testing, including the Bayonetta.
The Bayonetta, we did play Bayonetta.
Let's kick it off. How did you think the build went, Gordon? It was a pretty quick build.
It was
easy.
Not having a lot of parts makes it very easy, and I gotta say, for a small form factor case, I'm very happy. This is a Silverstone SG13, P for pink, not for B for black. Bravo. This is P.
And a lot of people were asking Gordon, why did you pick pink? Let's go over that one last time. Why did you pick pink?
Well, one, my daughter loves this case. Two, it was on sale. It was super cheap at the time I priced it on Newegg. And are you really going to care? I mean, you save $25, $30 over the black version of this case. I would do the pink. Who cares? I mean, I'm comfortable with who I am.
Yeah.
I don't know what's up with that. So.
Pink's pretty cool.
$30.
There were
gets you a lot of
plenty of
hardware.
people. There were plenty of people who liked the pink. So,
yes, I love the pink.
And then what about the components we put in it? Are you happy with what we put in? Is there anything you would change, knowing now how everything fits in here? I know we had a little bit of a problem mounting the hard drive and
yeah,
such.
we weren't sure. Should I go over the parts list?
Yeah, sure. If you want to.
So in this build, Ryzen 3 2200G and MSI B350i Pro AC, Silverstone ST30F, small form factor power supply, SFX by the way, 8 gigs of DDR4 Vengeance RAM, 3200, Silverstone SG13P as we mentioned, a 240 gig HyperX Savage Kingston drive, and just some random 2 terabyte drive that was lying around. Basically about $600 with the OS. As far as am I happy with it?
Yeah,
the case,
especially how we built it in there. I mean,
yeah,
the performance we can talk about in a minute. But do you like the small form factor power supply?
I like the small form factor power supply. I'm just going to pull the top off here if I can. One thing I really liked, if you can see this, caught on something here. But there's a lot of room. So because I went with this Silverstone 300 watt small form factor power supply, it gives you a lot more working room in here. I like that. If you use this, it does take a standard ATX power supply. That does eat up a chunk of room. I actually kind of like this.
Well, I forgot you made a little modification after the build.
Yes, actually, that was definitely one thing I would have changed. So this motherboard, this MSI B350i Pro AC, this board itself, interestingly, does not have a way to reset the BIOS. A lot of small form factor motherboards, a lot of motherboards these days, on the outside there's usually a button you push to reset the BIOS if you have an overclock that fails or you have a setting that fails. This motherboard is really weird because there's no way to do it externally, and what's funky is you can in the BIOS say, oh, if you lose power, reset the BIOS. So a lot of higher end boards, you pull the power, it goes, oh, overclocking failed. Next time you boot, resets the CMOS, comes right up. This board, you set that in the BIOS to do that, but it is off by default. So you have to turn it on, and the problem is, if you have a problem with an overclock, or like I was trying to clock the RAM up on this, not even the CPU or the APU or any of that stuff, it would reset to, once you reset it, because you pull the power and put it back in, it would reset itself to stock. And if you missed the boot up screen, and then you had to kill the power again, it is now reset so it doesn't reset the CMOS. And the only way to do that is to pull the power supply out and get in between a couple of the ports in here.
Which is what we had to do during the build.
Right, and that's a long way explaining. What I did is I took the reset button, which nobody uses anymore. Nobody uses the reset button. I just rewired the reset button to the reset jumpers for the CMOS. If there's a problem, you just pull the power, stick a pen or pencil into the reset button, and that's great. Do it. That's a good mod.
Great mod. Yeah.
Mod.
I mean, other than that, I mean, nothing really changed from the build. Anything other than the about the parts that you would change out?
As far as the parts I would change out, you know, I think I might want to add a fan in front. We're fine here. Again, I don't know if you can see this or not, but there ain't nothing in here. So, and of course, cleaning the wiring up, which I'm not going to do right now. It's not worth it. I would probably think about adding a fan in front. And I do want to point out, as a viewer pointed out, it's like, because I was like, can you really get a full-size video card in here? I don't think so, but you know what? I took a reference 1080 Ti Founders Edition, 1080 Ti, and I jammed it in here. You can really get a 1080 Ti Founders Edition in here, and some of the open-air cards, people are saying, yeah, the smaller ones you can get in here. I gotta say, that's pretty amazing. So
Yeah,
that's a good deal if you really want to do it. You're not gonna run off a 300-watt power supply.
No.
But, you know.
All right,
Just want to point that out.
Let's get into performance. I mean, we didn't go real heavy on the benchmarks. You kind of did the benchmarks on this system for the review for the 2200G.
Right.
So we kind of know generally how it performed, but also, you know, we loaded up some games over the past couple weeks just to test, including Battlegrounds, the Bayonetta, obviously, which we talked about during the stream, and then even yesterday we tried out the new Final Fantasy 15 Windows Edition. Right. You know, and I don't know about you, but I'm pretty surprised. I mean, you're not going to impress anyone by the graphical quality, right. but it held up.
It really does.
It really does.
I mean, really, and there is no Intel CPU in a socket that is the equal of this. This is 2 to 2.5 times what you're getting out of Intel integrated. Iris Plus is different, but you can't get that in a socket. But this is really decent entry-level gaming and very solid. From all of my testing, it's a very solid 720p gaming box. Of course, a lot of people are like, 720p? What is this? You know, we're at 2005 or something. But you know what? It's a $99 CPU. $99. That gets you a quad-core, no SMT/hyperthreading, and it gets you basically the equivalent of what is maybe an $85 to $90 GPU in discrete, maybe. So
do you think, you know, that this one's limited to the 8 CUDA cores? Do you think it's worth it to jump up to the 2400G just to get the extra CUDA cores?
I'm really torn because, well, one, you do get SMT, so you get a little slight, you get a bump in clock speeds. You also get your, you know, AMD hyperthreading for people who can't think any other way. But it just feels like you're not getting that much more. You're getting 3 more, not CUDA cores, but you know.
Whatever.
GCNs.
Vega cores. I'm sorry.
Vega cores. Vega GCNs. I don't know though, because now you're up to $170 for the APU itself, and although it would get smoked in any CPU tasks, at that point you're really up against a Pentium G with a GeForce GT 1030, right? GT 1030 is about $90 to $100, maybe $110. And a Pentium G, whatever the hell it is, which is a dual core with hyperthreading, I believe, well, about 50 to 70 bucks, 50 to 60 bucks. So, I gotta say, the gaming experience out of that GT 1030 is probably going to be better. CPU performance definitely out of Ryzen 5 2400G will slaughter it in CPU stuff. GPU side, I still think the GT 1030 would be a little bit ahead, but they're about equal. So, but you know. It's a little weird, you know. You're in a weird spot there. I don't know what I'd do. I'm really kind of torn there. To me, the attractive thing is $99. $99 gets you quad core, you know, Vega 8, and you're really set. 720p. We were playing Final Fantasy 15. 720.
I mean, we even bumped it up to 1080 low or medium, and it was hovering somewhere in the late 20s, you know. Right. But in a game like that, it was playable. Very playable.
And I got to say, for this build, I would definitely make a change in storage. So one of the things I did was I used a SATA, because my thought is at this price point, people are going to go for SATA drives, but I use a really nice, you know, Kingston HyperX drive, right? Or gosh, sorry, let's get that right. I used a Kingston HyperX Savage 240 gig SD. That is an MLC drive. It's really nice. It's also pretty pricey. But I was looking at the price, you know, of, you know, like blue drives. Some of the TLC drives are a lot cheaper, a lot more capacity. I might lose the hard drive and go with the, you know, 512 gig SSD, because the SSD prices have gotten a little better.
Okay.
So just an M.2 drive or a SATA drive, they're getting pretty cheap, and hard drives just suck. I loaded the games on the hard drive, and they just.
I mean, especially Final Fantasy 15. I mean, those load times for a while. We we had some nice chats in between loading in that
Yes.
video. You should definitely go check it out. It was fun. What about the RAM? Do you think, instead of jumping up from a 2200 to a 2400, do you think you take that $70 and maybe put it in a little higher clocked RAM?
I don't think I'd go crazy, but I mean, people are making a big deal out of this. Oh, it costs a lot of money for 3200. I was actually finding 3200 DIMMs only about maybe 10% more, 15% more. So I would definitely buy higher clock RAMs. But honestly, there's sort of like a point of no return, right? You don't really need to pay $200 for 8 gigs of RAM. It's not going to significantly increase the performance. It's not going to make a 1080 Ti performance out of that. So,
well, and as long as you got the dual channel,
you definitely want dual channel, and you definitely want modern. I think right now I'm running just this Corsair RAM. It's a little finicky with this Corsair RAM. I'm running it at 2667. So,
okay.
And I definitely, for people who watch YouTube, I gotta get this name.
Jay's 2 cents.
Jay's 2 cents. Oh, thank you. I always get it wrong. He had problems with his APU builds out of the box.
He did the first
And
time.
I got to say, I'm kind of wondering if I sort of ran into it once in a while, because I think what happens is, of course, a lot of people blamed it on hardware, but my issue, it would easily corrupt Windows. So if I did an overclock, I did a reboot, it crashed. So you got a blown overclock. I would start getting blue screens. I said, oh, I messed something up, right? And I did everything I could think of, swapping RAMs, all this other stuff. What fixed it was a reinstall of Windows. So definitely it's a little finicky with Windows. And also, I do think the early BIOSes are a little wonky. It's always that way with new hardware. So
well, also I believe last time I checked earlier this week, this motherboard still isn't even available yet.
Is it still not out?
Yeah. So who knows?
Right.
I don't know if that says anything, but
Right. And the crazy thing is, of course, if you have a motherboard that doesn't support APUs, you can't even boot up this machine. You need to be able to update the BIOS to support an APU before you can run it. And, AMD does have a kit which is they send you an older APU to update your BIOS. So apparently, it's interesting. I want to point out. Now, some of the Counter-Strike tests I tried showed very, like we were looking at 1080, 200, 100 frame, very good. But actual play, Counter-Strike Go, I actually went on a server, got my ass handed to me several times. It's a solid, it really is at about 1080p, maybe 60 frames a second, maybe down to 50. So very solid 1080p, but it wasn't like I was getting 1080p and 180 frames a second, which some of the tests might indicate that. Real world in a test with real people, about 60 to 70 frames a second. Still very good for Counter-Strike Go, right? So very, very, esports oriented, and for everything else, I say definitely solid 720p.
Well, and some testing I want to do, maybe later is how this holds up with emulation. Yeah, I've been doing a lot of PS2 emulating, a lot of GameCube emulating with Dolphin, and maybe obviously this smokes a Raspberry Pi, but at $100, it might not be a bad emulating. Emulator,
and again, this is pricier. Mini ITX is going to cost you more money. Everything smaller costs a little more, but you can. I mean, I'm blown away. You can do a Ryzen 3 2200G build for $500 with the OS. And that's paying legitimate retail price of the OS. So if you're paying non-legitimate, got that off the back of a truck, as everybody likes to do, which I still think is pretty iffy, you really could do a 720p gaming box for $420.
That's not bad. That's not bad.
It's really not bad. Really not bad.
So also we had a section on the Full Nerd, I guess a couple weeks ago now, about APUs. Like, are they going to stay relevant? After the graphics card prices come back down. I mean, Bitcoin is still steadily declining. Hopefully those graphics card prices come back to normal. This APU build, like I said, maybe there's other cases like the emulation and things like that. Your kid's first PC build or something like that. I think it still has its place.
Yeah, no, and I think so. And I think as we discussed it's interesting because if you do an APU build versus discrete graphics, cheap CPU, when the time comes and prices have come back to earth, you take your cheap GPU, that investment that you've made $100 to $150, and you toss it or whatever, try to sell it at a loss to somebody. That money does not go back directly into your machine. If you built on an APU box, and I go out and I now put $150 GPU in here, which honestly in a few months could be, maybe we'll have a 1060 back to, right, $200 or $150. That all goes back into your machine. So that's a direct investment. If you actually put money into a GPU and only use it for 6 months, that is really a bad investment, right? Anybody will tell you you've now lost all your money on that video card because you're never going to get the money back for it. And
True.
so,
All right, cool. Well, thanks for everyone for tuning in to the live build, and and waiting for us to do all the benchmarking and testing. And thank you, Gordon, for doing all this work.
no, yeah, I mean, this is fun. I mean, again, it's just amazing to think $99 for what you're getting. $99. It's an 1080 Ti, but it's amazing for $99.
Cool. Awesome. And we'll stay tuned for more PC builds later. We've got one every month pretty much coming up. So
Yeah,
we got some fun ones, especially for March. So look out for that announcement. Elena and I will probably be back to talk about that one sometime in the next couple weeks.
I look forward to it.
All right. See you guys.